Good morning and welcome to day 4 of our Lent daily reflections. And today we're thinking about journeys and we're carrying on that front, but we're talking about burning bridges today and embracing change and new things. We read in the Old Testament that the Hebrews had been living in Egypt for 400 years. Started off as a small family, the family of Joseph, but they'd grown into huge numbers and now they were being oppressed by the Egyptian taskmasters and who sought to control them and contain them and exploit them and enslave them. But they had not forgotten the story that they had from Joseph and his family all those years ago. They remembered the stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but they yearned for freedom to come. And it took some persuasion for them to leave Egypt when it came to it. The story of the Hebrews leaving Egypt is a dramatic one, fleeing on foot, carrying as much as possible, driving their flocks of sheep, goats, and cattle. This was a slow-moving exodus and an escape from slavery and tyranny. But do you remember the story? As soon as they were on the borders of freedom, Pharaoh changed his mind once again and pursued them, and they ended up between a rock and a hard place at the edge of the Red Sea. And they were pursued by Pharaoh and his chariots and his army. They were caught in the trap. They could have turned back, of course. They could have faced the consequences. They could have returned to slavery, to their old life, but they had tasted freedom. And there they are, the Hebrew nation standing at the edge of the Red Sea with the army bearing down on them really quickly and really fast. Must have been terrifying. And Moses says to them, "Don't be afraid. Stand firm and see the Lord's deliverance. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." The miracle of the parting of the Red Sea and the escape of the Israelites through the Red Sea is about burning bridges, or at least partially. It is about change. It is about embracing new things. Once they'd gone across, there was no turning back. We've lived most of our life in Wales, actually. We've only recently returned to Kent, where we were born and raised, where I was born anyway. When we were in Wales, it was good to regularly visit family and friends, but it also made us a little unsettled in our new surroundings. We would comment about how it always seemed to start raining when we went back into Wales halfway across the Severn Bridge. Until one time we returned, it didn't rain, a very rare occurrence in Wales. There was bright sunshine over the Welsh hills, and suddenly we felt that we were actually going home for the first time, and that Wales was our home, not Kent. We had burnt the bridges to our old life in Kent on those occasions, and we had embraced our new life in Wales. Over 30 years later, we find ourselves coming back from Wales to Kent and reversing the process. Although this time lockdown has prevented us from making those trips back to Wales to see our family. And it's also prevented us in some ways of making the new relationships we'd hoped to have made. But going back to the Israelites, the journey of the Exodus was a defining moment for them. It is their foundational story of a people called out of slavery, rescued by God and brought together as a new people. So as you hear the bonging of our clock in the background, reflecting on the time that passes, whatever changes you are facing in your life, whatever bridges you may be called to burn, God says to you, don't be afraid, stand firm and see the Lord's deliverance, because the Lord will fight for you. You need only be still. It's difficult sometimes, isn't it, to be still and rest and just put your hope in somebody else, in God. In that passage from Exodus, after Moses has told the people to be still and not be afraid and wait for the Lord, they do that. And God says to Moses, Why are you still crying out to me? Go now. And there comes a point where we stop praying, we stop crying out, and we actually have to go. So whatever bridges you may need to burn, whatever journeys you're on, don't be afraid and stand firm, be still, and see the deliverance of the Lord. Bless you all, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye.